Welcome back to the Best in Horror, released between October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. I'm ML Miller. You could come up with the most terrifying image, and it won't be as scary as pure, absolute darkness. It's what you don't see that drills deep into those fight or flight impulses and causes those shivers down your spine. Here are two films that incorporate darkness to make for truly frightening scenes of terror. This is ML Miller Frights' Best in Horror Countdown 2020-2021. Number 6. Don't Breathe 2 is number 6 in our countdown. It was released August 13th, 2021. It's available on demand and digital download. Don't Breathe 2 was directed and written by Rodo Sayagues and based on characters created by Fede Alvarez. Taking place sometime after the events of Don't Breathe, the man, played by Stephen Lang, returns, and this time he's living with a little girl with no recollection of her past named Phoenix, played by Madeline Grace. We come to find out the man claims to be Phoenix's father. When a few skeevy-looking punks follow Phoenix home from playtime in the park, the punks, led by Raylan, played by Brendan Sexton III, descend upon the house to rob it. But what is really going on here? Who are these guys? And who is Phoenix? The answers are pretty fun to find out, and one thing is for certain. These punks have picked the wrong old man to tussle with. While the home invasion plot seems repetitive from the storyline of the first Don't Breathe, this sequel proves to be anything but, as it toys with the idea of repeating the same moves, but then goes on a completely different path. This is because of newcomer Rodo Sayagues' clever and deceptive script that takes what little we know about the man and warps it into something completely different. The result is a film that is much more like a John Wick movie than anything else, though there is much more attention to the bodily damage than in the John Wick films, which simply tallies up the bodies as if you're in a video game. In Don't Breathe 2, we get to know the bad guys. Hell, we know more about them than we do Stephen Lang's character. And while this might seem like a random meeting between the gang and the man, it turns out to be something much more sinister. Imagine if Michael Myers or Leatherface simply wanted to be left alone in his home and people kept coming to the place to disturb them. That's kind of the situation Lang's blind man finds himself in. He seeks solitude and peace, but is never able to get far away from chaos and destruction. Even at 70, Lang proves to be an imposing monster of a man. He's ripped as all get out, and the character actor really gives his all to make this an iconic performance. Given the horrifying things he did in the first film, which I'll get to in a minute, it should be hard to sympathize with the man. But Lang brings a lot of humanity into his sightless eyes with a stern, overprotective voice and a furrowed brow of concern. While he's offered up some wonderful roles in Avatar, Tombstone, and Manhunter, this Don't Breathe series is the thing Stephen Lang is going to be known for, as he delivers emotional complexity to every exasperated breath he takes in this sequel. Madeline Grace does a great job here as the youngster whose dreams are becoming too big for the man to contain. Phoenix's desire to see what world has to offer her drives the story, and while Lang's soulful performance is the backbone of the movie, Phoenix is the heart of it. Rounding out the cast is Brendan Sexton III. He's made a career of playing shifty characters, but he really adds a little extra to Raylan here. Without revealing any twists, his role is crucial to the way the film plays out. He's put on some weight and some years, making him a formidable foe for the man to take on. The action scenes in Don't Breathe 2 are phenomenally realized. Once again, it's a game of cat and mice, with the mice not realizing how sharp the claws and teeth that old cat has. Once again, darkness is used to great effect, and just because he's blind, the man is not really hindered one bit. While this film leans a lot more onto the action side of things, this is dark action resulting in heinous carnage. The man's wrath is bloody and medieval, and the gore is highlighted here as faces, limbs, and bodies get demolished and deconstructed in the gnarliest of ways. This is definitely a horror film, despite the big-budget action scenes. These scenes don't just leave a blood trail, but the tension leading up to them make each and every one of them unique and suspenseful. So the big controversy attached to Don't Breathe 2 is that the story sort of shifts the man from monstrous sex assaulter who attempts to impregnate his victims with a turkey baster full of his own semen to heroic entity protecting his house, home, dog, and adoptive daughter. I understand in the real world, people think cancel culture is for keepsies. But this is a horror movie. The man is and always will be a monster. He deals with this fact throughout Don't Breathe 2. He's done heinous things and feels that just being around him puts everything he cares about in danger. And it turns out he's right. Yes, this script twists the man's role, and the home invaders aren't as likable as the original. In fact, they're downright rat bastards. But instead of redeeming the man, the film simply studies what happens to a person who has done horrible things and doesn't get what's coming to him. The pain, resentment, guilt, and horror he has to live with overwhelm him. For me, this is a much more interesting story than the original. Don't Breathe 2 dissects what it's like to be a terrible person and manages to do it while providing tight-knuckle action, dazzling special effects, and soppy, gory kills. Sounds like a great idea for a horror movie, and I'm glad producer Fede Alvarez didn't back down from social media pressure and went for it with this film. While I don't know if Don't Breathe 2 is as perfect a film as the original, it's damn near close. Writer-director Rodo Sayagues has come out of nowhere and knocked it out of the park. And while this could be the final end to the series, I'm glad they left a little wiggle room in the end. Fans of John Wick, Death Wish, Death Sentence, and other dark revenge films are going to need to see this one. Don't Breathe 2 oozes ferocious retribution from every dark frame. Today's bonus review is The Descent into Deep Black Darkness, called REAPTOWN. It was released October 1st, 2020. It's available on demand and digital download, and also streaming on Amazon Prime. It's directed and written by Dutch Marich. Out on a work release program from prison, Carrie, played by Brooke Bradshaw, finds herself walking the grounds of an abandoned train yard during the night shift to prove to her superiors that she is fit and responsible enough to reintegrate into society. Carrie's sister, who was released into the same program 2 weeks prior, has disappeared. As Carrie wanders the dark train yard, filled with abandoned locomotives and miscellaneous equipment, she uncovers the town of REAPTOWN's dark secret and hopes to survive the night. REAPTOWN is a small-budget movie that knows how to stretch its dollar, incorporating some well-integrated drone shots, nerve-shredding patience, and an absolutely terrifying atmosphere. Writer and director Dutch Marich is able to achieve so much horror with so very little. If you boil this film down to basics, and it already is boiled down pretty much, it simply follows a woman around in a dark building using a small flashlight as the sole illumination. Every swish of the camera sends a jolt down the spine, due to the endless darkness surrounding the entire frame. Adding to the terror is the accompaniment of equally frightening sounds of a baby crying, miscellaneous machinery clanking, metal plates falling, and a minimalist score. All of it put together makes for a mood that is as tense as it comes when paired with the strong performance of the lead, Brooke Bradshaw. Bradshaw has more guts than most, though the terror is plainly shown on her face as she wanders the buildings, getting lost, and flailing for some kind of escape. Marich succeeds in achieving a tone that most horror filmmakers dream of matching, utilizing patience, space, the shifting light, and slight sounds. Some might grow weary of the repetition of scenes that follow Carrie on her rounds through the train yard, but those who simply drink this film in for the potent dose of terror that it is will appreciate Marich's firm grip on how to instill fear in the here and now. That said, I do think there are some missed opportunities at some solid scares as Carrie flashes her light around in the final moments. The suspense is ratcheted up to a breaking point, and I longed for a moment to release that tension. Still, it shows Marich's fiendish side as he provides no release until that very last moment. Yes, this one has an ambiguous ending. I would have liked a few more answers as to how things ended up the way they did. While I wouldn't go so far as to say REAPTOWN has a happy ending, I think some of the upbeat parts could have been omitted to maintain the dire tone set in the movie prior. Still, REAPTOWN is simplistic horror at its best. It's a focused and potent dose of fear that is all-encompassing and a true achievement in low-budget horror. Come back tomorrow for the next installment to the Best in Horror Countdown 2021. If you hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below, you're sure never to miss it. See you then. You're doomed.
inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're inside